begin by saying, do you enjoy life force being summoned through you? So then we could go back from that and say, do you enjoy desire being born within you? Of course. So then we could go back and say, do you enjoy the birthing of that desire? Yeah. So then we could go back and say, do you appreciate the variety or contrast that helps you give birth to that desire? And then you say, no. You can reach the place where you are really enjoying the birthing of desire. Then you will be in the place where contrast will not annoy you. It will instead delight you, because you will come to recognize that you cannot focus without contrast. And the focusing is what is life-giving. It's a nice thing to recognize that you have the ability to guide your focus. And as you do guide your focus, then you have the ability to feel the corresponding feeling to the thoughts that you are choosing. And so you have creative control of your experience, not only creative control about what you give your attention to, but therefore creative control about how you feel most of the time. And then creative control over what manifests. In other words, when you begin to exercise your ability to focus, that's when you begin to really enjoy your experience. We can understand how you might not enjoy an experience when you feel buffeted around out of control. None of you like the idea of being in your vehicle on ice, spinning with no control. And yet all of you enjoy being in your vehicle and being able to guide it efficiently and effectively and joyfully wherever you're wanting to go. And so what we are talking about here today is how you can actually gain control of your experience at all times, so that the elements or the circumstances that may be potentially out there, maybe even that you've experienced in the past or that you know someone is experiencing now, they don't feel like threats to you, because you always know that you have traction, so to speak. You always know that you have creative control of your own experience. What we want you to come to realize is you can turn your attention toward your desire and vibrate in perfect harmony with your desire, but it's not likely that you are going to do that because you've been practicing other thoughts. It's happening even on subliminal levels. You got vibrations going on within you that don't make it all that easy for you to think about this dominant thought of desire. Now here's what we mean by this. The other day, Esther sat to meditate before a gathering like this, getting ready to allow Abraham to flow through her. And as she sat to quiet her mind, a thought kept coming into her head. She tried to breathe the thought away. She tried to the thought away. She tried to quiet her mind, put her brain on pause. She tried every trick she's learned through the years, and this thought just would not die. She could not wrestle it to the ground and kill it. She could not get rid of it. The thought was just on her mind. And we said to her, as she relaxed a little bit more and more, Esther, you've got a dominant thought going on. And the reason that it's dominant is because you've been returning to it fairly frequently over the last few days. And so you've got a thought that's just more active than usual. And that's why you're having a more difficult time quieting your mind than usual. Now, the reason that we are talking about this dominant thought is because we want you, as you are moving through the next few days, to begin to pay attention to what your dominant thoughts are. If they feel good, it's a wonderful thing. If they don't feel so good, they're not serving you very well. And we want you to begin to offer some thoughts on purpose with the singular intent of making thoughts of your choice dominant. Now, why would you want to do that? Because it's better than having thoughts not of your choice be dominant. We are encouraging a game, a process that we are calling virtual reality. You've played this game in other fashions, as you've called it creative visualization, or as you've called it using your imagination. We're calling it virtual reality because we want you to begin to recognize that as you give your attention deliberately to something and you practice the thought until it becomes easy, that you are virtually creating your reality. In other words, your reality will be born from that. And we want you to realize that you have utter creative control within this process. Now, it goes like this. You decide where you would like to be. If there's some place that you know that you feel good when you go there, then choose a place like that. You might not know the specifics of a place, so you might say it's a mountaintop, or it's a lovely restaurant, or it's a city near an ocean. In other words, you can be as general or as specific as you want to be, but the first thing you do is pick a place. Just like if you were directing a movie scene and wanting to influence the way your audience would feel as they are watching your presentation, you would set the scene. So you would decide where it's going to be. You would decide what time of year it is. What is the weather? What time of day is it? What is the lighting? What is your mood or attitude? How do you feel in this scene? And all of this is very brief. The entire virtual reality, we think optimum would be about 30 seconds. So you're going to pick a place, you're going to decide what time of year it is, you're going to decide what time of day it is, you're going to decide how the sun is shining or not, you're going to decide what your mood or attitude is, and then you can decide whether you're going to be in this virtual reality all by yourself or whether somebody else is going to be with you. And if there is going to be someone else, you'll decide how is their mood or attitude, how do they feel right now, and then exchange a few brief words and then leave the virtual reality. Now, the whole point of this virtual reality, one reason only, to practice a vibration of your choice and make it dominant. You've been picking up stuff along the way that is dominant. Some of it serves you and some of it doesn't. This exercise is only to show yourself that you can choose on purpose those things that you want to be dominant. So, virtual reality process is only for the purpose of causing you to make a vibration of your choice dominant. The only reason that we would ever do a virtual reality is to practice a vibration and make it dominant. We think that virtual reality should be used only for practicing a vibration and making it dominant. Did we mention that we think that you should own? And the reason that we are really hammering this here is because sometimes your temptation is to go to a virtual reality to try to improve a condition, or to go to a virtual reality to try to fix something that is broken. As Esther began playing the game at first, she'd pick a scene, that was easy to do. She'd set the time of day, that was easy to do. She would establish her mood or attitude, that was easy to do. Then she would bring someone into the picture that she needed to reform in some way. Or she needed to adjust her vibration relative to them in some way. And we said, that's sort of like going to your virtual reality, creating a magnificent new house, noticing the roof is leaking, bringing in a repairman, having him overcharge you, going to his boss, getting that all straightened out. And we say, virtual reality is not the place where you fix things that are broken. Virtual reality is only the place where you find a good feeling thought, milk it for all you can, and then get out. In other words, get in, feel good, get out. Get in, feel good, get out. Get in, feel good, get out. Because what will happen to you with far less of this than you think right now, you will begin to activate within you, by virtue of these virtual realities, vibrations that are so good feeling that not only do the virtual realities get easier and easier, but your whole point of attraction begins to shift because more of the time you are holding yourself in a good feeling place. Good. So, Esther was getting ready to come and play with you today, and we suggested that she just take a quick moment and turn on the television. So she did, and she dialed until she felt the impulse, and she saw a television program, local, news, where one of the high schools has decided that since it is getting close to the time when the teenagers will be having their parties, to play out in as real a fashion as they can possibly do, the fire department and police department, the dramatization of teenage traffic accidents. And they've brought broken cars, and they have brought teenagers, and they have decorated them to be wounded and dead. And they have put them in the football field for a big assembly for the whole high school to participate within over several days. And their intention is to make these accidents as real to these kids as is possible. And we said to Esther, this is an excellent virtual reality. They've set the scene. They are setting the mood. They are deliberately evoking emotion and feeling within them. Every 15 minutes, a teenager dies somewhere. So every 15 minutes, another student is pulled from a class and marked dead. Their faces are whited out, their eyes are blacked out, and they are excluded from the student body because they have been removed by death. And while they are removed, in the days that they will be removed, they write goodbye letters to all of their friends, and their parents write their obituary. And the final words of the newscast were, We want these kids to feel this as real as they can possibly feel it. And we said to Esther, virtual reality at its best. Not the one we would choose, but you get the idea of what we are talking about. These very well-meaning people are still standing in this category where they think that the way you motivate someone to not having a traffic accident is by just making a traffic accident look so horrible that they really don't want it. And we say, do any of them want one anyway? In other words, we don't think that the kids are getting together and planning to have traffic accidents. And there is nothing that will make them more vibrationally in harmony with one. Nothing that we have ever seen more compatible than that virtual reality that well-meaning township is taking those kids through. Fortunately, as the camera panned the faces of the students, the majority of them, as we read their mind, were thinking, and we'll be very specific, this is a pile of crap. Most of them are not having any of it. Most of them don't feel vulnerable. Most of them know that they are all right. In other words, most of them are still in that good feeling place. Most of them will not be affected by this ritual. But over a long period of time, they would be affected. Everyone comes to the vibrational place that they are through the way life experiences touch them. And what we are suggesting is that you go often to a scene that makes you feel good, and you practice going to such scenes that make you feel good until two things will happen within you. First, your proclivity to go to good-feeling scenes will become better and better. In other words, it just gets easier and easier because law of attraction will help you get there. And second, when you are touched by something that doesn't feel so good, you'll recognize it. We saw, even as we were dramatizing their dramatization, that we could see you not feeling good. We felt what was going on within you. In other words, you can feel when you know that feeling good is what you want, how a projection of thought that does not match that feels. In other words, you'll get so good at recognizing what does feel good. And you'll get so good at holding yourself in a place that does feel good that it just becomes easier and easier and easier and easier for you most of the time to feel good, which means it will become easier and easier for you most of the time to be in a place of being in step 3, which is allowing the well-being that you so much want and deserve to come to you. The thing that those people, those well-meaning people in that township that were offering that presentation to those students, the thing that they do not understand is that there is no assertion. There's nothing out there after you. There is no assertion of bad. And so there's no reason to push against the bad. Instead, there is a stream, a steady, powerful stream of well-being. Look around you. Look at the percentage of wellness that abounds. Your continuing existence on this planet must get your attention about that. In other words, you continue to mostly thrive. And so, as you understand that there is a stream of well-being that flows, and all you have to do is line up with that stream and you'll thrive. And when you're not lined up, you'll feel it in the form of negative emotion. And that practicing in a virtual reality, or even practicing sifting, looking for good feeling things where you are, as you practice feeling good, what happens is you just hold yourself more and more in alignment with what is good, so that more and more of that is your experience. Then it's easier for you to remember. In the beginning, you might have to do a little virtual reality in order to adjust your vibration there. But it doesn't take more than about 30 days of making an effort every day of finding a virtual reality that feels good before more of what is happening in your experience is like that, which means then you don't have to virtual reality unless you're just having a good time with it, because what's happening around you is sufficient enough to keep observing. In other words, it gets better and better.